Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 3 of Thessia, our Australian-inspired build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for all support on this series. I'm really glad you guys are enjoying a new escapade with mods on the channel. It feels a lot more refined and, I guess, clean this time around is the take-home point. But either way, in today's episode, I wanted to get started by rounding out some networks, indeed finishing the kind of creek detailing palette that we're using around what is now called Crocodile Creek, which we'll get into later on in the episode. But please enjoy the hyperlapse as we detail up the creek here and also prepare some road networks for today's episode. So I'll catch you guys in the live play. And welcome back to live Thessia, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day and enjoyed our little hyperlapses at the start. And a quick correction, I credited the kitchen wench for this asset last episode. That was incorrect. It's actually the tea addict that gave us this asset. So a huge thank you and a big apology for that as well. There's so many assets being posted, it's hard to keep track of them all. But either way, welcome back everyone to the Australian-inspired build. A lot of fun had last time out with our generic industry. Designing for the town of Valkyrie, which is great, and unfortunately the city's demands have rocketed back up to demand industry again, but we don't pay attention to the RCI, especially when we're playing modded, do we? So today I'd actually like to start developing more Suburbia for Valkyrie. There's some great inspiration to have in Cootamundra here, and lots of fields, lots of open green space, and some simple, nice, chill suburban sessions, we hope. So we're going to get started by returning to our main central strip here, where we had this as kind of a big sort of mall design in the town of Valkyrie that we want to respect down towards the riverfront. So that's what we're going to start off with today. So I think we're going to start off with one of Bad Peanut's wonderful sports fields. I think we're going to go for cricket this time. And a big shout out to Bare Necessities for the Crocodile Creek Cricket Club logo. Just so much fun to see you guys coming up with all these little sort of cute little community artworks. They're really humbling. Thank you so much for putting the time into them. So we're definitely going to have these guys as the Crocodile Creek Cricket Club. Wonderful scenes. Cool. So this comes with a little bit of walking pathway on it, which I'm not a massive lover of. So we're actually going to use Network Multi-Tools Unlock feature. So we can unlock each of these segments right here. And then once they are unlocked, we can actually upgrade them into whatever pathway we want. So I think we're going to go for a classic park path because it does come with the bins, the benches and the lights already on it, which will do us a job for decorating. Make it seem a little more true to life, I think. And then we just want to relock those segments again with Network Multi-Tool so we don't accidentally delete them. Cool, and then hopefully now we can just span off a few of these little numbers back up into the main town. And I want quite a bit of foliage here as well. Been a really fun starter building so far, this sort of slightly rural Aussie theme. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you guys are as well for anyone following along. And there is actually a bit of an issue with the map Thessia at the minute with its train station start. If you are playing along, due to a bug, you will need to actually delete the station and place it again in order for people to come into the town. Exit is working on a fix for it, but it's easier said than done with the map editor once there's buildings down. So if you're having that, that's probably why. Cool, so this is pretty nice so far. Let's definitely get more walkability hooked in with here. So just glancing back to what I'm seeing in Cootamundra, there definitely seems to be a bit of a sort of sports facility here, I guess is the way I would describe it. Kind of like a community sports hall or venue. So I think we're going to imitate that by bringing out some car parking to help people actually come and enjoy the spaces here. But I want to do a slightly more interesting car park if we can, so let's do 10 on that angle. And then I'll also do 7 with that one. Then hopefully that'll bring us back in. Let's just amend that so it's straight with that one there. And then node controller will be our friend here as well today, as we turn all these ones into a bend, which will give us a slightly more interesting car parking shape, I think. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll get some places down as well, but I'm also seeing like a sort of community sports venue here, like a gymnasium. Now we could use the one from the game, which is the sports hall and gymnasium, but this thing costs a fortune, and I'm much kind of preferring leaning into actually the trade school campus, because this one has the gymnasium in it and it kind of works perfectly for what I want today. Unfortunately, it is going to need to be required, or will place down a trade school administration building in order to get this in, which I'm not a huge lover of this one just yet. The town's kind of too small to have it. But I think what we are actually going to do is use the world of ploppable Rico to actually change the gymnasium from a university building into what I want it to be. So let's place down this university area first of all. And we will eventually get around to building university, just not in the 3rd episode of the series. So now we can place the asset down, right? Let's go ahead and get our gymnasium down, which is going to serve as my like sports hall or venue for the central park here in Valkyrie. Right, imagine where they play indoor basketball or a bit of volleyball. If it's pissing down outside, then they can go into the gym and enjoy the recreational space in there. But then I want to click on the building, and when you do have Rico settings, you'll be able to click on this button up here, and it will bring up the trade school gymnasium. And then we actually want to add a local configuration onto this building. So we can choose it to be whatever we want, really. We can change it into any of these types here. We can turn it into a dummy. I think just because of my demands at the minute, I might as well actually set this to be an office building, which I think I'm going to do. And then we'll have it at level 3. Sure, yeah, it can be max level. And then construction cost is fine. We'll go for a work account. Let's say that 10 people work here. I'm not using the realistic population mod. And then we can split these out as well. Let's say 0 there. And we'll also go for 6 uneducated jobs as well, which will affect our home work account up at the top as well. And then that's cool, right? So now we can just hit save and apply changes. And when we come now to click on our trade school gymnasium, we now see that it's a office building with 12 worker spaces available. So I can now delete my campus area because I don't need it anymore. And then we can remove it. And what happens now is essentially this trade school gymnasium becomes a ploppable office, and I don't need the campus area to put it down as I do with the rest of them. It of course does exclude me from using this asset to increase the university campus area, but I don't need that because I've already got that unlocked anyway. So a really cool, happy functional use of ploppable Rico to repurpose an asset into exactly what we want it to be. So I'm going to be happy with that. And then we also want to use Bob here as well because there's some parking spaces out the front that I don't want on here because I'm doing my own parking. So we just want to remove those with Bob, I think. And then probably some of those random bushes on the side as well. Let's get shut of those. Cool. And everyone's going to be wonderfully happy with that. So again, orientation. I'm really keen to hammer this home as well. So let's see what we can do here. Kind of looks like there's a little natural spot there for the building to sit against the car park, does it? Now, of course, that's not going to receive its buildings, but building spawn points mod will fix that. And this has just had an update. We can now click and drag the spawn point. What a massive quality of life improvement that is. Thank you so much. Atomic Surgery for this great, wonderful mod. Yeah, so the point is placed too far from the road. That's absolutely fine. So we need to bring it over here. And then let's just give it a happy little rotation as well. So building spawn points again. You can now drag and drop the points on them. Tremendously helpful. So we'll have a little bit of that in there as well. So it's not too bad, is it? I'm going to be happy with it. It's just a kind of a chill sports hall in the middle of our fields like that. I'm pretty happy with it, I think. Love that shake it sign in the top left as well. Very happy with that. Alright, so let's return now to our inspiration. There's plenty more parks around here, which is what I want to respect today. Doing lots and lots of park stuff. So we've clearly got 2 basketball courts and a couple of tennis courts here as well. Bob is really making himself known in this episode, isn't he? Going to remove those vanilla trees again with our old friend Robert. And then I just want to line up these, what's it called? Basketball courts here now again as well. Cool, so I'm happy with that. And then I think I actually will have a little bit more car parking through here as well. Just to help round off this section, and then we'll probably need to turn this back into a little custom node here as well now, won't we? There we go, square everyone off. That should do us, yeah, just so it kind of adds a bit more shape into the car park, and then we can do some detailing around here as well. And then we'll grab a couple of tennis courts also. Go ahead and finagle these together. I think again I just want them on a slightly different angle to our basketball friends. Let's see if we can bring them sort of backing up to each other like this. And then let's go ahead and grab that car park again. Then hopefully we can just have this one come down. And then we'll use the service road to hook back into the Suburbia. And then that kind of gives us the perfect excuse there to now actually develop some cuter riverfront commercial. Now I'm not going to do a massively overly developed riverfront here for Valkyrie. We will eventually have some nice waterfronts, but it doesn't feel natural here. I think we're just going to leave this overgrown. Imagine where you'd find sort of alligators, crocodiles, etc. Yeah, just overgrown, nothing overly developed. Maybe a bit of a pathway, some trees, etc. But nothing too serious. And that's fantastic, isn't it? We'll be really happy with that. A little bit of service painting needed in and around our courts, but this is going to give us a really cute little sports complex and facility. For Valkyrie, very much kind of a community social hub happening over here, right? This is pretty cute. I'm happy with this one. And before I forget, we now have Aussie police cars driving around. So the Aussie police car gang are finally pacified. Wonderful assets. Again, big thanks to Tiadic for verifying that this is indeed an appropriate Aussie police car. They're fast, aren't they? Jesus. You can't even keep up with him. But there he goes, right? Wonderful. Oh. There he goes. She's right there, guys. You not see her? She camouflaged. They just turned up at her house. Oh god, there goes the kid as well with the bear. What is going on in that house, I wonder? Anyway, yes, Aussie police cars are back now, which is great, right? Well, not back, then they're here for the first time, I suppose. So let's return now to our central park spaces that are developing over this way. Let's go ahead and throw down a community pool. We can certainly see one of these in the satellite imagery. So we'll have one in. Now, these are pretty expensive, aren't they? 1,200 a week, yeah, so might be nice to put 2 in, but we don't want to totally bankrupt our city right at the start here. I think that's just going to do a really simple job for us, isn't it? Nothing too overly complicated, and nice little corner asset here as well for sort of opening up those social hub vibes, isn't it? And then we've also got another Bad Peanut Park in this way, and I think this time we're going to return to the wonderful world of Aussie football with the community one. So there's the football field and then the football park. Is there a major? That's huge. It's absolutely massive, isn't it? Jinkies, everyone. That's enormous. Or we can have the one that we've got over here as well. A lot of people walking into Valkyrie right now, which is great. Just thinking actually, we don't have buses yet either. We could probably do some buses this episode too. I guess a town this size, right, it makes sense to have a bus at this point. Just a small line around the major streets, maybe. This is a real chungus boy, isn't it? But it kind of works for what I want. It's really big. Let's move it down a little bit. Let's go for about there, I think. Okay. It's actually going to work out quite nicely because these little pathways here are going to just connect wonderfully into the pavement and just make it a nice walkable space, aren't they? I think we can get away with that. It's also giving us a nice little waterfront field up against the river, isn't it? Cool. I definitely want a skate park in here as well. Again, I'm just referencing what I can see within the satellite imagery. And a skate park is going to fit wonderfully well within the whole community social vibe, isn't it? And we can see little bits of sort of walkability now starting to cut through all these little park spaces in Cootamundra. So I want to see if we can replicate that as well. So I'm not sure if this merging of the pathways here is actually going to register as a connection for the city's Skyline sims. I assume it will. I guess we'll find out together. And then again, I want to just do a little stretch over that way. Cool. And then I think some live oakage knocking around the main central pathway will help us. And let's introduce a little bit of workshop tree as well, right? Be rude not to whilst we are playing modded. Maybe the occasional sort of taller gum, which will essentially create a little tree skyline for Valkyrie, won't it? Something like that, just so we got all this little bits of personality knocking about in between these pathways. And again, we can jump into a street view in the park and see lots of little playground nuances that we can do in our detail and time lapse when it comes to some more micro detailing, I think. And then I think I'd also like that concrete texture just fleshing out between the park and the pool. It's tremendously fun making these little open walkable green spaces with mods, not having to worry about collision meshes with assets. Very refreshing. It really is. Let's see where you're going to go, Mr. Man. You going to turn off? Nope, you're just taking the cut through. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. I guess I don't have to walk it. As long as it looks connected, it's fine. Unless network multi-tools unlock function would come in handy again as well. It might do, you know. It actually might. Let's have a little look at this. So if we were to bring this down into here and then push it back out that way, that essentially achieves what I want it to do. And then we can just relock the segment with network multi-tool. So to my understanding of network multi-tool, that should work. No reason why it shouldn't. Looks great, isn't it? Little walkable pathways. All those little spaces getting used now. Very exciting. And then let's also grab some choice commercial now to sit opposite this space. Let's sort of bring it to life a little bit. So there we have it, just a little collection of commercial along this front here using some of these cinemas and Art Deco pack stuff. And we've also got a bunch of these packs, well, bunch of these signs, I guess. These ones right here. They are a bunch of Aussie-inspired billboards and commercial units. Got a bit of cash converters as well, alongside some EB games. So I'm not sure if they're accurate. Got some Specsavers too. I guess Specsavers is also English or British, but really cool, right? Adds a bit more personality into our commercial. So I'm happy with it so far. People enjoying the pool, hopefully. Jesus, actually walking across the pond for the pool. You alright, love? Do we need a rename? Julie Phillips can become Jesus Mike. She's walking across the pond. Wonderful. Cool. Alright, but again, this little social hub area is starting to develop now, right? Imagine it's a cool place to bring the kids on the weekend, or, you know, you got friends visiting the Valkyries that will head down to the sort of town centre where there's, you know, sports, cafes, cinemas, etc. Nice little happy spot at the minute, isn't it? I'm really enjoying it. There is something wholesomely satisfying about modded open park space. It's soothing for the soul, I think. So there's something really cool that I can see in Google Earth that I'd also like to try here as well, in the town of Valkyrie. And this is going to be a little retirement village, essentially. So we're going to bring off this little road here. Let's go for 3 units. Should do us, I think. And then we'll just run this straight down into that one, which should be okay. Again, I could actually delete this and feed it into the same node, but we're just going to leave it like that for right now, I think. It's not really necessary. It's not like it's a super busy part of town. So we're going to drop in the elder car, of course, right, as a bit of sort of front of house, I guess. And then we definitely want to bob this as well. Let's go ahead and throw on some of our favourite gum trees, and regular bush can just outright be removed. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Robert. Cool. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think a little bit of surface paint throughout the front. We'll make a bit of a flower garden for them, right? Old people do love flowers. So I think it'd be nice for them to look out over that every day. Tremendous. Cool. And then essentially we'll do a fence lining around it to kind of make it like a separate gated community almost. But what I'm seeing in Google Earth is there's almost like little offshoots here, and I'd love kind of a lesser road, something without any markings on it. I probably need to make a trip to the workshop in all honesty to get something like that, which we might do. I'm really keen not to add any kind of network assets into the asset list. I'm pretty happy with the vanilla ones. But within this space, just a bunch of little kind of offshoots of road. And then within them, people seem to be, I guess, retiring to them, but also living within the main sort of space itself. So how far can we move you before you become disconnected? Let's have you about there then. And then I guess a bunch of the European suburbia housing would probably be most appropriate for the vibe I'm after here. I think some of the decorated stuff might be overkill, so let's just search for EU, and then we'll grab a bunch of these kind of single story ones, right? Just a little bungalow, maybe with an attic conversion, where the old folks of Valkyrie do indeed live in peace, that aren't part of the rest of the town. It's very much a retirement sort of community. Again, there's not a vast amount of houses, it's really small. So we'll just pick and choose exactly what is allowed to be part of this. That looks a little bit, maybe it's a little bit fancy, that one, isn't it? But, you know, whatever. They've got a nice little grill and chairs at the back to enjoy, haven't they? And that's kind of it. It's just a housing, and I think if we pick out a nice sort of fancy fencing, we've got a bunch of options available now in this new series. Let's go for bright iron fence. Is this going to be alright? Let's have a little look what she looks like on the prop line tool. Of course, I'm still getting used to the fence palette that we've got available in Thessia. That seems pretty alright to me, doesn't it? How is that gate looking? Are you alright? Oh, it's just like a little side gate, isn't it? That is really nice. Okay, I think we'll have a little bit of that. Let's test what this looks like then. Really hate that bug. It flings us up to the sky. It's the most irritating thing about modded. Yeah, so we want the 8 meter fence. So let's see if we can have this, what about there? And then we'll bring this down along our road just until it meets the entrance into the facility. And then maybe we can say, you know, okay, so at this point here, there's going to be a gate in the fence. And we can just line that up with previously placed fences. And then maybe a little pathway would be welcome through here to feed people in. And then we can possibly extend the decals out of here, which I know, if Vanilla Egg's memory is serving correctly, that is the garden tile, which is a pain in the ass to find. That's the one, isn't it? There it is. And then we just want to stick this on. Essentially just 2 of them, isn't it? So we'll grab those, and let's use Move It now to grab those decals. And then we'll line them up, bring it down, and then we can get involved in some very fun old people detailing over here. We search for some tables as well. We can really add a lot more personality, and also a great little space filler in and around for our old people's home as well. Let's get a bird bath here as well. Old people live for watching the birds, don't they? So we'll have a little bit of bird action for them. And then we can just bring that out and essentially just create this fun little community for all of Valkyrie's old folks, which I think will just sit within this grid here, and we can probably get on board with it, I think. Okay, and we'll keep that fence going as well, so people can kind of like walk in and out of the facility here via the gate, which I think would be quite cool. I also think a great asset to actually pair with this would be another campus one, the groundskeeping building. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think we could also actually filter for trucks, because there is a sub-building truck that if we filter for sub-buildings, let's turn off asset creators, go for sub-buildings here. Yeah, this one right here, the groundskeeper truck. I think these would be great to have around, you know, so if any old people on the site need a light bulb changing, or, you know, some of their meal plan or whatever has clogged up the toilet, then they can ring the on-site maintenance, who will then dispatch in one of these little trucks to come and sort them out. Right? We can be creative with vanilla assets here, I think. But I'm going to enjoy that. And then I think we definitely want as little road markings as possible, so some hide pedestrian crossings with node controller is definitely going to be welcome for a little build like this, I think. Cool. And then we'll surround this again with our regular Valkyrie Suburbia, which will help it settle in a lot more, I think. But some mods and a couple of choice fencing, definitely on board with expanding our old people facility to create a bit of a retirement village for Valkyrie, I think. I'm going to say quite nice opposite the Australian football pitch as well, isn't it? Very cool. Very nice. On board with that. And then the last thing I want to do really before we move into a major detail in time-lapse, because all this is just going to be general outer-lying residential, as we see in Google Earth, is a high school campus, because of course we haven't given them one yet. The people of Valkyrie currently have no high school, so we need to fix that. So let's come ahead. I think I'm probably going to use the standard European one, but again it's going to need a significant amount of bob work. And again, I kind of want this to be in and around the community, and I guess opposite the road here on the commercial bit would probably be a good point for it. So I'd like the school to sit on Main Street, but I'd like a little bit more of these parking roads on Main Street, I think. So the roundabout doesn't seem to be that bothered, actually, when we come to add these in. So I think we'll go for them then, if the game is happy with them. I was thinking it might ruin my IMT work, but it doesn't seem to really be bothered, which is great news. I think we're using the blue gums on these roads, aren't we? Yes, we are. These are so good, these parking roads. Add so much more personality, I think, doesn't it, to a commercial strip when you've got the parking on the road out front like this. Huge fan of them. Again, they're down in the asset collection if you want to come and play with them. Cool, yeah, so we'll definitely have some more commercial strippage down here. Totally on board with that. Then let's return to the wonderful world of education, and I would indeed like the high school now to sit here, hopefully. Again, it's going to need to be bombed, because it's pretty awful looking at the minute. How far can we disconnect you before you become unhappy? I was even tempted to knock it further down this way. I might even remove that one. I think I just want more breathing room away from Main Street. That's what's bothering me at the minute. So I think we'll have this down here. Going to be a nice corner asset there as well, isn't it? I don't know if there's another one we can possibly pair it with. We get a post office on the corner here as well. We do have this New Zealand Victorian post office as well, which is a really small little cute number. But I think I actually would prefer the vanilla post office here, I think. Have that one on the corner, right? All people love posts and stuff as well, so good location for them. That's great news. Cool. Alright. Yes, and then we can detail this up in our time lapse. Let's go ahead and get down some more fun commercial along our main street here. Cool. And then once we got some of our favourite assets arranged, I'm actually just going to service paint this up, and we will help separate our main commercial strip away from the rest of the suburbia with another little goods delivery area like we've done over this way. Just helps add a bit more personality into the back of our commercial units, doesn't it? So I think that'll be appreciated over here again as well. But I just love creating this vibe down Main Street. Easily one of my favourite things we've ever done in cities. This is so much fun. It's absolutely great. Love this, just super detailed assets again from a collection called Small Town Australia. Really nice, dropped in some of my own signage here as well where needed. Which is really cute, right? Really, really cute. I guess we could do some custom Thessia signs, couldn't we? So we can place them around so it says Thessia Post rather than Australia Post, but whatever, we can pretend, right? we can pretend. But otherwise, guys, this feels like a good place for a detailed time lapse. So let's polish up our high school campus, add in the fencing and details around our retirement village, and then plop in a bunch of outer line generic commercial, and also finish off our main street vibes down here as well with some car parking. So let's detail up Valkyrie's suburban centre, and then we'll be right back. Okay everyone, so let's start our detailing review, shall we? We'll start off by saying that I am absolutely in love with Valkyrie. What a gorgeous little town this has turned into. So we will enjoy the sightline down Main Street, right with all of Valkyrie's insignia emblems now. I was heading down this way, looks super cool, really happy with it. And then we come into a wonderful little churchyard. So dropped in a church, moved it back off the road with Move It, created kind of a skeleton frame of pathways around it, and then tiled it up, put some planters as an edge with some repeated tree patterns, and what a wonderful little space it's given us, right, to accommodate some death care service using the realistic cemetery assets that we used in Ilos as well. Again, everything down in the asset collection if you want to come and pick something up that you see in the video today. And then a little bit of parking next door as well, with some live oaks, which really ties the area together, doesn't it? So a nice way to fill out some suburban space before our mass repeated sort of single story home, suburban theme sort of envelops Thessia again. Before we arrive at this little suburban park square, and a quick shout out for those that don't know, Few Candy of all people has a wonderful little collection of ploppable parks on the workshop. I'll leave them, well, they're in the asset collection down below, but do come check them out. They're really handy space fillers. I know she's done some really nice designs, so grabbed a few of these with the pathway in between and expanded the tree palette just to help create a little active square within the community. And then we've also done some cul-de-sac detailing in and around these suburban spaces where it's allowed before we actually enter the retirement village of Valkyrie, which has turned out really nicely. Surrounded it with this really cute fence that we saw earlier on in the episode. Dropped in lots of trees, upgraded the roads into tree lined as well. So there's lots of shade around here, which is quite nice. Some nice node controller on the intersections, and then you will notice that there's actually a minibus route here that I've placed in. So this comes into the retirement village and will shuttle the old people into town all day long. It comes right down here past the school and then onto Main Street so they can get to the shops and the post office and the church and whatnot. And then it eventually stops here at the cemetery if they want to perhaps visit friends of the past. And then it drops them back off at the retirement home for a nap. And then outside the retirement home, we now have some wonderful little colourful fern patterns out front, which is really cute. It's really brought that space together. And so was bobbing the retirement village as well. What a wonderful use of that space is, and I'm just so happy with it. Also at the front, we have this gorgeous little maintenance depot for the trucks that we placed in the episode just to give them a bit more purpose. And I'm super happy with this. Bit of overgrown fencing around it. Some props and an office asset too. This is actually office building. Container worked out really nicely. Super happy with that. So if they need a light changing, or they've got a ladder with them, haven't they? So they can get an old person out of the tree if they get stuck in it, right? They're equipped to deal with any situation. And then over here, just some nice fused commercial assets to create this little veranda around the edge of the commercial unit. And then more carefully chosen assets. The school campus has been hedged off and had its assets placed into it with some nice pathway detailing behind the local commercial, which gives us some really nice alleyways now as we walk through sort of, I guess this is downtown Valkyrie, isn't it? A couple of tables outside here as well around the back in case anyone wants to grab a beer and come and sit outside. And then we emerge back into our roundabout, which is super cool. And then we'll cross the street onto the other side of Main Street as there goes the minibus. To some bollard detailing outside of the seafood grill with some benches and umbrellas again as well, just to help create a little bit of functional space with the pathway through there as well, against all this commercial units. And also actually dropped in a couple of industry warehouses here, and these are the same ones we used over this way in last episode's build, and just because we had screaming industry demand, so I wanted to try and get some in, at least in today's build. And then the same again with the assets over here, which we'll get to in a second. Yes, and a little bit of nightlife and bars and whatnot, some clubs, souvenir shops. Really cute. Maybe not the pink squirrel, we could bob that off, but I guess it's alright, isn't it? It's not too bad. Yes, and this all continues down here as we come into this little industrial estate which has been zoned, which has given us some very nice prop alignments at the back of the commercial, which with some clever surface painter and fence work has been turned into kind of a mock delivery area, if you like, around the back of this way, before our bus depot comes in, which is now supplying 3 new bus lines, which we'll have a look at. So the one coming in and out of the retirement village here is the minibus for the old people, which actually stops at 2 graveyards, doesn't it? That wasn't intentional, I promise. That's just I guess morbid accident, right? And then the other one is a mirrored line that runs up to the train station, and just around town you can follow that white route as it kind of goes down the central mall, picks people up in the suburbs, and then just goes around. We are having goods demands at the minute. this is going to go away, don't worry, we'll fix that over time. And then over in the far corner here, down by the corner of the bridge going over the creek, we have added in some of our Victorian New Zealand assets that we have off the workshop, which just make such a cute understated waterfront, don't they? Really like these assets, and then blended it with the Seaside Resort Historical Library, and then another Seaside Resort asset over here as well. So kind of giving a bit of an older theme to this part of town. And then an ice cream parlour, some older looking commercial in this area, and then also parking space with a dirt road down toward the river banking, which has just been left to be natural and overgrown. Oh yes, also dropped in a faculty building as well because we were getting some higher education needs, so this will do until we get a university campus, but it's going to do a job for us here, right? It's going to sit quite nicely within the high school campus as a separate standalone building. But otherwise, guys, that's kind of it for today's episode, and a really fun, chill suburban expansion. If you've enjoyed it, likes, comments and shares below do go a long way. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. I'm tremendously happy with the expansions that we've made in Thessia today. Lots of cute ideas to take, and it feels a lot cleaner this time around with mods, I think. I'm really happy with it. Please let me know what you think of it down below. And indeed, what you think should sit on the other side of the creek for Valkyrie. I'm not quite decided that yet, so I'd be keen on your guys' input as well. As always, please enjoy your cinematics, but I'll shut up and leave it there. And let's thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.